They thought they were building heaven on earth. Deep in the jungle of Guyana, more than 900 Americans cleared land, planted crops, and raised homes from nothing. They called it Jonestown, a socialist utopia free from racism, capitalism, and the cruelty of the outside world. At the center of it all stood a man in dark sunglasses, a preacher, with a voice like honey and thunder. His name was Jim Jones. He told them they were chosen. He told them they were safe. And when the bullets flew and the poison came, he told them they'd be free. Only the dead would follow him to the end. Jim Jones didn't start out as a monster. Born in 1931 in rural Indiana, Jones was an outcast, poor, socially awkward, and morbidly fascinated with religion and death. Neighbors found him strange. He would hold funerals for roadkill, mimic fiery sermons he heard in churches, and isolate himself with books about Stalin, Hitler, and Jesus Christ. From the beginning, he was watching, learning. In his early adulthood, he began preaching on street corners, blending Pentecostal fire with Marxist ideals. He wasn't just calling people to God, he was calling them to revolution. In 1955, he founded the People's Temple in Indianapolis. It began as a progressive church, racially integrated at a time when that was dangerous, even illegal in some parts of America. He fed the poor, he opened homes for the elderly, he adopted children of different races and called them his rainbow family. He was magnetic, compassionate, charismatic. He called out injustice from the pulpit and demanded his followers live as equals. People gave him their homes, their savings, their lives. They believed they were building a better world. And for a time, they were. But behind the smiling sermons, something darker was growing. Jones became obsessed with control. He started staging fake faith healings, using planted actors who rose from wheelchairs or spat out tumors made of chicken liver. People believed. Donations poured in. And Jim Jones began calling himself a prophet. Soon he claimed to be more than that. He was God. By the late 1960s, fearing exposure and increasingly hostile media, Jones moved the temple's headquarters to California. In San Francisco and Los Angeles, he gained political clout. He backed progressive causes, marched with civil rights leaders, even received awards from public officials. But paranoia never left him. He had his followers sign false confessions of crimes they hadn't committed. He encouraged public beatings during temple services. Families were split apart, loyalty tested, disobedience punished. And then came the first white night. He handed out red liquid and told everyone to drink, said it was poison, then waited. People wept, clutched their children, and obeyed. When no one died, he laughed. It was only a test, he said. But one day, it wouldn't be. In the mid-70s, Jones sought escape. He feared the media, the government, even his own flock. He needed isolation and control. He found both in the jungles of South America. Guyana, a small socialist nation on the northern coast of South America, offered cheap land and few questions. Jones called it the Promised Land. Hundreds of his followers, black, white, elderly, young, sold everything they had and boarded planes to build a new world from scratch. They carved a settlement out of the jungle, built rows of cabins, a school, a medical tent. A communal kitchen fed the entire population. There were classes in socialism, cultural performances, and constant praise of Jim Jones, broadcast over loudspeakers that ran 24 hours a day. It looked like paradise, but inside Jonestown, the cracks widened. The food was never enough. Medicine ran short. Days were filled with grueling labor under the blistering sun. Armed guards watched over the compound, day and night. Jones's voice echoed constantly across the jungle, spewing fear, preaching death, reminding them the outside world was full of fascists and racists who wanted to destroy them. People were exhausted, isolated. Some were ready to leave. But no one was allowed to. Jones collected their passports, their money. Their letters home were censored. He told them enemies were everywhere. He rehearsed mass suicide again and again. Children were forced to watch mock executions. White nights became a regular terror, sudden calls to gather and drink poison just in case. Jones himself became bloated, erratic, drugged out of his mind, often slurring through 6-hour rants in the middle of the night. And still, they stayed. Some believed. Others were too broken to resist. Back in the U.S., whispers turned to alarm. Former members began speaking out. Family members said loved ones were being held against their will. And one California congressman, Leo Ryan, decided to investigate. Ryan was known for being unafraid. He had gone undercover in the past to expose abuses in prison and education systems. In November 1978, he flew to Guyana with an NBC News crew, several aides, and concerned relatives of temple members. Jones greeted them with a show. There were choreographed dances, happy interviews, carefully prepared meals. A young girl handed Leo Ryan a flower and smiled for the cameras. But as night fell, something shifted. Slipped notes arrived, whispers behind closed doors. "Help us. I want to leave. Don't trust him." Ryan confronted Jones the next day. He said anyone who wanted to go should be allowed. Jones didn't object. Not openly. 20 people packed their bags. They left the compound under tense silence. And Jim Jones began to prepare for war. At the Port Kaituma airstrip, Ryan's group waited for their small planes. That's when a tractor-pulled trailer appeared, loaded with armed temple guards. The gunmen opened fire. Congressman Leo Ryan was shot more than 20 times. 3 journalists were killed. So was one defector. Others fled into the jungle, wounded and bleeding. Back in Jonestown, Jones gathered his followers in the main pavilion. He lied. He told them soldiers were coming to torture them, take their children, destroy everything they had built. There was only one way out, he said, an act of revolutionary protest. He passed out cyanide-laced flavor aid, mixed with tranquilizers, prepared in steel tubs. Children were taken first. Babies were poisoned by syringe, then mothers, then the elderly, then everyone else. Some cried, some screamed, some refused. But the guns were there, and the indoctrination ran deep. Many died in silence. The airstrip massacre happened at 5 p.m. By sunset, Jonestown was dead. Over 900 bodies lay sprawled across the jungle floor. Children, grandparents, families embracing each other in death, rows upon rows of corpses, face down in the mud. Jim Jones was found last, dead from a gunshot wound to the head, likely self-inflicted. On a tape recovered from the pavilion, you can hear him in his final moments. "If we can't live in peace, let us die in peace." It was not peace, it was slaughter. The world reeled. News crews arrived to film what they thought was 100 bodies. As they looked closer, they realized they were counting children lying on top of their parents, bodies layered upon bodies. The American public watched in horror as images of the dead flooded their TVs. Congress held hearings. The temple collapsed. Families grieved, and the word Jonestown became shorthand for cult horror and blind obedience. But what gets lost are the people, the teachers, nurses, students, mothers, farmers who truly believed they were building something beautiful. They wanted a better world, a fairer one. They didn't follow a madman. They followed a dream. He just poisoned it. Thank you for listening to Road to Ruins. Subscribe for more true stories where systems fail and people pay the price.